Hey guys, so today I want to do a video on all the different guitar effect pedals I've used before. And I thought this might be an interesting companion video to do because I've already done a video before detailing the history of all the different guitars I've owned. And if you guys are interested, you can always check that out on my channel, by the way. I'll also link it in the description. But yeah, I've done a video already detailing the history of all the different guitars I've owned. So I figured, all right, let's go with guitar pedals now because I've owned a lot more guitar pedals. For guitarists, we like to swap out different pedals, and they call this gear acquisition syndrome, or GAS, basically. And it's much easier to do with pedals because pedals are, they're not as expensive as guitars generally, and they take up less space. So usually guitarists can go through quite a bit of different pedals, and for me, no exception. I've gone through my share of different pedals before. So yeah, I thought it might be interesting to tell you guys about what kind of effects pedals I've used in my career, essentially as a hobby guitarist or amateur or whatever you want to call me. I'm not a professional, obviously. So yeah, throughout my guitarist life and my hobby, my hobbyist guitar life, yeah, this is the different guitar pedals I've used. So I want to kind of just show you guys, which pedals I've owned and tell you a bit about each one, how I used it, why I don't have it anymore, or why I have it still. So yeah, we can go through all the different effects pedals. So let's start out here. All right, so when I'm going through my guitar pedals here, for the ones that I don't have any pictures or video of, I'm just gonna pull up a stock image like this because, yeah, back then, back when I was young, I started playing out guitar, I didn't take many pictures or video. I wasn't doing too much YouTube videos back then. So anyways, this is my first guitar pedal that I start out with, which is a Digitech RP50. And this is a multi-effect pedal. I think like many beginner guitars, we start out with multi-effect pedals because they're cheap and we don't know much about effects. So, you get one of these multi-effects pedals because, hey, we don't want to deal with too many effects. We don't know too much about them. And these multi-effects pedals seem convenient. They just have everything like kind of already built in. So, so yeah, just like many beginners, I picked up a Digitech RP50. Is this being like, I think it was like less than $50 at the time. It was pretty cheap. And it had all the effects on it, and I didn't know too much about effects at that time. So so yeah, I had this pedal back then, and we're gonna go kind of in chronological order, I guess, of which pedals I've owned. But actually, I kind of want to go over the different categories of pedals I've owned before. I think that might actually be easier. But yeah, let's start out with the multi-effects because this really is my very first guitar effects pedal. I think I had it for maybe less than a year. I didn't use it too much because I remember not really liking the sound from it. There is like a upgraded version with like a wah pedal, like expression pedal, I guess, attached to it. I think it was the RP100 or something. I didn't get that version. I kind of really wanted to have a wah pedal, but I couldn't afford one at the time. This one does have a wah effect, but it's like an auto wah effect, so it wasn't the same thing. Yeah, I remember not using this one that much because I just remember it not sounding very good. So yeah, it's pretty much, Digitech is a company known for digital simulations, for digital effects. And at this time, this was the mid-2000s, digital effects weren't very good. Nowadays, digital effects have improved a lot, right? You look at Strymon effects, for example, they're all digital and they sound amazing. But back in the mid-2000s, no, digital effects did not sound as good as analog effects back then. So yeah, especially multi-effects pedals like Zoom pedals and Digitech pedals. So yeah, this is my first pedal. It's a multi-effect pedal, I think, for many beginners. This is what we start out with. And just like many other guitarists that we start out with these multi-effects pedals, and we don't like them because they don't sound as good. Like especially these old ones from the mid-2000s, the digital effects just aren't there. I mean, it does have a lot of features. It does have a lot of effects. Like this one has a drum machine in it as well. But yeah, I remember not using it very much because I didn't really like any of the effects or presets and stuff. Like some of the presets are just kind of weird sounding. I remember not really using them that much. So anyways, it is my very first effects pedal, but not really one I've used for very long. Yeah, just didn't really like the sounds in it. Right, let's get on with wah pedals first. So this category is going to be wah pedals. So yeah, wah pedals are basically these foot activated pedals where you had to basically use your foot on it all the time. So they're not really a convenient effect to use because you got to be like interacting with it all the time, but they do have a very unique effect. And yeah, a wah pedal is I would say pretty much a staple if you want to get that kind of sound. Like for Jimi Hendrix, I was really into Jimi Hendrix back then. Huge, I mean, still am kind of, but Jimi Hendrix fan. I was huge into Jimi Hendrix back then, and of course Jimi Hendrix used a wah pedal. So I had to get myself a wah pedal. There's really no other way to duplicate the effect. So my first wah pedal was a Crybaby 535Q, and I owned this for, I think maybe less than a year, I would say. Because this is a good wah pedal, first of all. There's not anything wrong with the wah pedal. This actually has a lot of good features. This has a Q control right here, which you can kind of control the resonant peak of this wah. It's just very useful. Actually, it's still kind of a control I have in my current wah right now. And this is a boost switch. So when you click on this boost switch, it increases, I think, a 15 decibel boost here. Pretty good. I own this for less than a year. It's not because I didn't like it or anything. It's just that, well, I upgraded to another wah later on that you'll see. So yeah, nothing wrong with this pedal. I think I used it for a few coffee house gigs at my high school. I think I used this for Voodoo Child, right? Yeah, I played this in Voodoo Child, I believe. I did like a solo performance of Voodoo Child in my high school at a coffee house, and I used the 535Q for it. So it's a pretty good wah pedal. It is very versatile. I think a lot of people will cite this as one of it's a classic Crybaby. They've had this one. They've had this model for a while, and it's one of the most versatile models. Still is one of the most versatile models. Crybaby has all this different artist signature models now, but the classic 535Q is still one of the most versatile. So yeah, it's a good wah pedal. Just I eventually upgraded to something that did a little bit more actually, and you'll see what it is next. So this is the Jimi Hendrix Fuzz Wah that I upgraded to in the same year, 2006, I believe. I had the 535Q until 2006, so yeah, Hendrix Fuzz Wah is what I upgraded to, and this one I don't think they make anymore. They still make the Jimi Hendrix Wah, but they don't make the Fuzz Wah. This one incorporates a fuzz circuit inside of it, which I think is based on the fuzz face, because that's what Hendrix used. And of course, me being a huge Hendrix fan back then, I had to have the Hendrix Wah. And this one has a built-in fuzz wah, built-in fuzz face. So I was like, yeah, this fuzz wah has a built-in fuzz face, and it has a Jimi Hendrix wah inside of it. So it's just kind of contained in this one pedal. I don't know why Dunlop doesn't sell this anymore, because it was a pretty good pedal. Yeah, I mean, I used this for maybe, I don't know, a year, probably like a year. My memory's kind of hazy on when I owned these pedals. I didn't take any pictures of these back then, but I remember having this when I went to university. Yeah, when I took this to university, and yeah, I remember using this with my Vox Valtronics 30 amp back then. That was the amp I had back then, was a Vox Valtronics 30. Remember using this, and I remember this this being extremely loud, because I used it with my distortion and overdrive pedal at that time, which was a Visual Sound Jekyll and Hyde. I used them together, and it was it was really loud, and I was living in a dorm at the time. So yeah, I basically woke up all my neighbors in the dorm. So I didn't end up using this as much as I wanted to, because it was just too loud. I mean, I wanted to use it with a fuzz circuit because I was playing Jimi Hendrix stuff. So of course, when I activate the wah, I want to also activate the fuzz circuit. So you can see that fuzz circuit right there, that switch. You activate it, and then, you know, of course it becomes really loud because it's also fuzz face, and fuzzes get really loud. So you can of course play all the Hendrix stuff, but yeah, eventually this one got superseded by the Digitech Jimi Hendrix pedal. So that's why. This is still a good pedal, and I think I still wouldn't mind using this pedal today if I can find it, because it's not really, I don't know why Dunlop doesn't sell this pedal anymore. They only sell the Hendrix pedal. They don't sell the fuzz wah pedal anymore. I don't know why, because this one, it combines two really useful circuits together. So I don't know. To me, it's pretty cool. I don't know why they discontinued it. But I think I stopped using it because I switched over to the Digitech Jimi Hendrix pedal, I believe in 2007. So yeah, used this for like less than a year again, and before I switched it over. Okay, before I talk about the Jimi Hendrix wah, or the Digitech Jimi Hendrix wah, I'm going to go to the Vox wah, because I have owned a Vox wah before as well, and kind of, my memory is a bit hazy on this, but I think sometime 2006, 2007, 2008, somewhere between this period, I used this wah like kind of on and off. Like, it really was an on and off thing because while it did have the Digitech Jimi Hendrix pedal, the Vox wah was technically more accurate because this is actually the Vox basically is, you know, one of the first companies to bring the wah pedal over. So the wah pedal, when it was invented, I think it was Thomas Organ, the company that kind of imported it to the US, but then Vox was the distributor for England. So kind of Vox and Thomas Organ were the first ones to really release these wahs. So they really are kind of the very first wahs on the market. And Jimi Hendrix is actually the one that used Vox wahs back then. Not sure what version he used, but certainly you can find footage of Jimi Hendrix using these wahs. So this was before Crybaby. Crybaby actually came out after Vox did when marketing the wahs. So I don't think I've ever seen any footage of Jimi Hendrix using a Crybaby, but certainly I have seen footage of him using a Vox wah. So because I watched a lot of Hendrix footage, I really wanted to have a Vox wah. So I had the V847. And I forget exactly when I had this. It might have been like 2006, 2007, 2008, around this time, where I picked up the Vox wah. I used it kind of occasionally. I was switching between this one and the Digitech because, yeah, the Digitech is kind of a multi-effects pedal. But then the Vox wah is the, you know, it's more authentic analog recreation of the wah. It's basically the original wah sound. So this is a vintage wah. Now, it's not exactly the same model. The original Vox wahs are now like, that's the V846, and Vox has a hand-wired version out. But the V847 is what I had access to, and this is what I saw Jimi Hendrix playing when I watched the footage. So I wanted to get the Vox wah, and this was, you know, this was the real analog effect. I didn't want to have, well, it's not I didn't want, but the digital effect that Digitech had wasn't exactly satisfactory for me. So I wanted to get the actual effect that the Digitech pedal was based on, which was this Vox V847, basically is what I got at the time, because they don't sell V846 anymore. That's the really vintage model from the 60s. They didn't sell the Clyde McCoy at that time either. This was like, 2006, 2007, 2008. So they didn't really sell the V846 hand-wired, and they didn't sell the Vox Clyde McCoy at that time either. Well, Dunlop actually didn't sell the Vox Clyde McCoy at that time. So you have to remember that effects pedals have proliferated. So these days, in the modern era, you can find pretty much any effect pedal you want. But back in the 2000s, there was a little bit more limited amount of options for us. So yeah, the V847 is what I used for a little bit, like on and off occasionally, because I would kind of like play this, go back to Digitech, play this, go back to Digitech, because the Digitech, it has everything in one. It's kind of like a nice convenient unit, but then the V847, this Vox wah, is the analog Vox wah effect. So yeah, it's the real wah effect, basically. It's not a digital recreation, it's an analog, the real analog effect. So anyways, I eventually sold it because I got the BBE wah instead, actually, after this, but which I liked a little bit better. But yeah, anyways, I did use this occasionally, I would say, when I was in maybe in high school and university. Yeah, so I just want to mention the Vox V847 too. Yeah. Okay, so for this, I do have a video of this. So this is the Digitech Jimi Hendrix pedal that I was talking about. So this is a multi-effect pedal, and it has a bunch of different effects built in. And me being a huge fan of Jimi Hendrix back then, Digitech doesn't make this pedal anymore. This was something that they made for, I don't know how many years, but they don't make it anymore. It's been discontinued a long time ago. But yeah, at the time, 2006, I think is when I got this. Yeah, I basically sold my Jimi Hendrix fuzz wah and started using this. And then I used this in combination with the Vox V847 that I talked about for the wah effect. Because the wah effect on this one isn't that good, to be honest. It does have a wah effect, which is based on the Vox, but it's not as good. So I ended up using the Vox V847 for the wah effects. But this does have some other effects which are pretty cool. It has a fuzz face, essentially. These are all digital effects, so they're simulations. But it has a fuzz face, which is based on the Dallas Arbiter fuzz face, of course, that Jimi Hendrix used. And they also have an Octavia, which is kind of an effect that pushes your, yeah, so this one is, it pushes your signal one octave higher. So Jimi Hendrix used that effect sometimes. It was this tech Roger Mayer that invented it. So this one has a built-in Octavia effect, and it also has yeah, it also has like a simulation for the amps and cabinets I used as well. So it simulates his Marshall Plexi amps as well. So there's a built-in kind of amp simulator, cab simulator as well. And also this has a built-in Leslie speaker, like Leslie rotating speaker emulator as well. So that's on one of the settings. And then another setting has a univibe. So that's one of the other effects that Hendrix was known to use was a univibe, which is kind of this like rotating throbbing effect. That yeah, it's kind of this rotating throbbing effect. I don't use it too much, but this one does have it as well. So that's pretty cool. It does, and it also has an acoustic simulator, which is pretty cool as well. So yeah, it's an acoustic simulator. It's not a very good acoustic simulator, but it does have one. So this is for the all along the watchtower setting, I believe. Yeah, so anyways, this one has a whole bunch of different effects built in. And yeah, this is the wah, which actually isn't very good. That's why I had the Vox wah as well. Yeah, this wasn't very good. And it's very, I think what I didn't like about this pedal, first of all, is like, it tries to like simulate many of the effects, but is not exactly the same as, you know, actually using an effect. It's just a simulation. This is talking about early mid 2000s digital modeling technology. So it isn't as good as today's digital modeling technology. It's still very good for the time. But yeah, if you look at like Line 6 and Digitech and Boss back then, they were trying out all these like simulations with the DSP and stuff, but it's not close to the digital simulation, like digital pedals that we have now. So back then, the mid 2000s, it was okay, but it wasn't like great. It's not Strymon or anything, you know. Like nowadays, you have really advanced DSP, but back then the DSP was just okay. It wasn't like great or anything. So honestly, I didn't like. This is a good multi-effects pedal, like an all-in-one effect, but it wasn't really like super great at emulating anything. But it does have all the effects built in for your Hendrix effects, which I guess is interesting. But the thing I really didn't like about this pedal is that it was so hard to activate. Like you had to really push down hard on the pedal to activate it. And it has two modes for each setting. You got to push down the heel and you got to push down on the foot. And both of them are pretty hard to activate. You got to hit them pretty hard. So that's another thing I didn't like about this pedal. So anyways, I used this on and off. I had this for a couple of years. I had it like 2006, 2007, 2008, and then I didn't use it until this is actually a video from 2000. Oh, actually, yeah, this is like a video from 2013. So like I got it again, I guess in 2012, 2013. So I guess you can say I had it all the way until like 2013. So I had this pedal for quite a while. It's just that I really didn't use it very much after 2008, I would say. 2008, maybe 2009, I didn't really use it that much after that. I've had this pedal for quite a while, but didn't really use it too much. I think I kept it around as almost like a collector's item because Digitech discontinued it. But yeah, the main reason why I didn't keep it is the effects, they were good for the time, but it's not really that convincing, especially the wah effect was not very good. And yeah, the travel of this little tread here is not as much as, you know, a typical wah pedal, and it's very hard to activate. You have to stamp on it really hard with your foot and your heel. So anyways, that's the Digitech Jimi Hendrix Experience pedal. Yeah, they sold this in the 2000s. It's not available anymore. It was a pretty cool pedal for the time, though, I think. Okay, so moving on to my current wah pedal, actually, which I did an introduction of this way back in 2010. So I've owned this pedal since 2010, and this is by far my oldest pedal that I still own. Yeah, so the BBE Benoit is what it's called. It's made by BBE Sound, who I think is a pretty underrated company when it comes to pedals. They make generally some pretty solid pedals for the price, but not many people talk about them, and they should. But yeah, I own this since 2010. This is a pretty cool pedal. Let's see if I can find. Yeah, so basically this BBE Benoit is based on an old school 1960s Vox pedal, essentially, like an Italian wah back then, and it uses a halo inductor, which is the same vintage inductor that those old Vox Thomas organ wahs used back in the day. So it's essentially a vintage wah, and I really like the sound of it. I think it's pretty much all I need. I don't really need anything more or better. I mean, sometimes I thought about, oh, maybe I should get like a mini wah so it takes up less room in my effects pedal board. But I think, yeah, so I think it's okay overall. I mean, I tried to... I thought about like, oh, should I get like a smaller wah or something, you know, takes up less space on the pedal board. But overall, I like this wah actually. So it's a nice wah. I've had it for many years, since 2010. Like I said, this is like a wah I've had for, what? I've had it for 14 years now. That's a long time. So yeah, and the only control it has is this Q. This Q control, which is pretty much the same as what you guys saw on the 535 Crybaby. It doesn't have the boost, but I don't need it either. But yeah, it does have that Q control though, and that's really the only control I need for this wah. It's pretty simple to use. Yeah, so this is really the only control it has, and really the only control it needs. Yeah, so yeah, like I said in this video, it's simple, easy to use. I've used it for a long time. It's really all I need. I don't really want anything more than that. It's just a nice vintage wah to have. So anyways, the BBE bend wahs is currently still my main wah pedal and what I've been using. Yeah, so I do believe that is based on the old Vox Clyde McCoy wahs, which is exactly the sound I wanted. So there's no need to pay like money to get the Dunlop Clyde McCoy or a T-Swa or, you know, a full tone Clyde. There's no reason to get those because this is exactly what I want, and it's based off of those Clyde McCoys. It has a halo inductor and pretty much everything that I want, so no need to really change it. Yeah, it's just a little bit beaten up because I've been using it for such a long time. But yeah, still the wah I'm using now currently. So the next category is going to be kind of buffers or tone enhancers or tuners, this kind of stuff. I don't really know what other category to put them in. But yeah, I started using a pedal tuner in 2012, I would say. About 2012 is when I got this. But this is a hardwire chromatic tuner. This was demoing it here. It's actually made by Digitech, so hardwire is not really available anymore. I think Digitech discontinued them, but they were a brand. I liked hardwire actually. A lot of their pedals are pretty good. They were made to take a lot of abuse. They're called hardwire because yeah, they're meant for like for taking abuse. Actually, they're made of good construction and solidly built. They were made for easy changing out of batteries and stuff like that. So. Yeah, Hardwire is a pretty good brand. I don't know why Digitech discontinued them, but yeah, I used this HT2 chromatic tuner from maybe 2012 to let's see, I used it from 2012 all the way until maybe 2016, 2017, I think. But yeah, use this for a bit as my main tuner pedal. Okay, so the Boss Wazacraft TU3W tuner is what I'm still using now. This is my current tuner, and I got it in 2016, so I've been using it for about 8 years now. So yeah, hardwire tuner, I had that until 2016, and then I use this Boss one now. I guess the major difference between this one, the Wazacraft one, and the non-Wazacraft one is that this one has a buffered bypass and true bypass switch, so you can kind of switch between the two. That's pretty much the main difference. I usually use it buffered, but you can also have a true bypass if you want, which is nice. And it's a very solid, reliable tuner because it's Boss, right? So it's built like a tank. So yeah, been using this ever since. I don't see any reason to change it out because it's a tuner pedal. As long as it works, you keep it in, right? So no reason to really change it out, but it's cool to have the feature to switch from true bypass to a buffered bypass. Yeah. Yeah, also has like the stream setting, I think, mode setting, but yeah, I basically just use standard tuning, so don't really change too much with it. Alright, so next up is this tone enhancer boost pedal called the Xotic EP Booster, and I got this back in 2015, and I used it until 2016, so I used it for Actually, I didn't really use it that much because I was actually living in Korea at the time, so I didn't actually get to use it that much, but for sure less than 2 years. And this is an interesting pedal because it is a tone enhancer, so subtly kind of enhances your tone, kind of adds a little bit of a warm characteristic to it. It's actually meant to emulate, I guess, the effect of the Maestro EP3 Echoplex preamp. So that was kind of this large echo unit that players didn't always use for the delay effect, but is actually for the preamp, which kind of subtly enhances and colors the tone, which is what this pedal seeks to do as well. So it adds kind of like a transparent boost, but also, well, it's not really transparent, I guess, because you have the boosting effect, coloring effect, I mean. But anyways, yeah, it's meant to enhance your tone and also boost it. And so it's a nice as an always-on pedal. And yeah, you might be wondering why get rid of it, right? Because it's an always-on pedal that enhances your tone, right? Well, I got the Dunlop EP101 after this, which is kind of a similar pedal, I guess. And to be honest, I didn't know too much the difference between the EP booster and the Dunlop EP101. I just thought the EP101 looked a bit cooler because it had the Echoplex actual trademark, I guess. So that was really the only reason. I mean, I can't tell you the difference. Maybe other people have done comparisons. I should have done a comparison video, but I didn't, and it's too late now. But yeah, anyways, I originally dumped this pedal to get the Dunlop EP101, which is essentially almost the same pedal, just with cooler graphics, in my opinion.
It is a boost pedal.
Okay, so this is the pedal I was talking about, the Dunlop EP101. This is the actually they have Dunlop has the Echoplex trademark, which is from the Maestro Echoplex Echo unit I was talking about. So this one is trying to, I mean, just like with the the EP booster, is trying to get you the same kind of tone that the Echoplex preamp was getting you. You know, gives you like a kind of a tone enhancing type of tone, and also you can turn up the boost as well. So it's essentially almost the same pedal as the Xotic EP booster, just I wanted to have the cooler looking Echoplex trademark graphic. That's really it. So I got this in 2017. I used it until 2022 when it got replaced by another Echoplex type pedal called the Catalan-bred Epochers. So yeah, I used this for quite a while. You can hear it on a lot of my recordings. It's pretty much an always-on pedal. I always leave it on because I left it on because it's a tone enhancer. So it's a adds a little bit of warmth and clarity, and just overall just make sure your tone enhances your tone a bit. So yeah, had this on my pedal board for quite a while, 2017 to 2022. So like a good 6 years I had it on my pedal board, I think. So anyways, yeah, this is a pedal I've used for quite a bit, and yeah, it's just a subtle tone enhancer type pedal and a boost as well. So this is a pedal that's kind of hard to explain what it does, but the BBE Sonic Stop or the Sonic Maximizer, this is like another tone enhancer type of pedal, but it's almost like an EQ pedal as well. I'm not sure how exactly explain it. It's kind of a unique pedal. So there's two controls, a contour and process control. And it really, what it does is kind of add enhanced detail and clarity to your tone. So I think the closest thing is like it tries to take a blanket off of your amp, and it sounds like, yeah, everything just sounds more clearer with it on. I don't want it to, like, you don't want to turn it up too much because it sounds too processed. But yeah, if you turn it up too much, it sounds too unnatural. But at the same time, if you do leave it on, it does add a noticeable difference to your tone. So it's an interesting pedal for sure. It's a very unique pedal. I wouldn't say it's like any other pedal on the market. So I kind of struggled with keeping this on my board or not. On one hand, the Sonic Stop does do something to your tone. In fact, it's actually more noticeable to your tone than the Echoplex type pedals are. Like the Echoplex type pedals do enhance your tone, but they're kind of more subtle. The Sonic Stomp, you can actually kind of hear it more, like you can kind of hear the difference more. But yeah, it's hard to explain what this pedal does. It's almost like an EQ, sort of. But
someone just lifted the blanket off of their amp.
Yeah, so the closest thing is like, yeah, it lifts the blanket off your amp. It's kind of like it adds more detail and clarity like that. But I struggled with keeping this pedal on my board because I was like, this takes up a lot of space on my board, this bigger version. and eventually I just went for the smaller version instead. But yeah, this is the bigger version of the Sonic Stomp. That's on my board. Eventually I did get a smaller version, but yeah, for this bigger version I think it just took up too much space on my board. When I saw the smaller version I just went for that instead. But yeah, I got this 2016, 2017 they came out with the mini version and I went for the mini version instead, basically. So in 2017, I sold the bigger Sonic Stomp pedal, the original one, for this mini version. So the mini version is essentially the same pedal, just in a smaller, more compact format. It has a process and low contour, same controls, just in a one concentric knob instead of two knobs. Yeah, so it's essentially the same thing as the Sonic Stomp, just in a smaller footprint. Again, hard to really explain what this pedal does. It does do something noticeable to the tone, but I've always struggled with keeping it on the board because I was like, do I really want this, right? Is it like worth having this in my chain? Because it's like something you do want to leave on all the time. At the same time, if you turn it up too much, it sounds too artificial and unnatural, I guess. So that's the thing with its Dunlop Echoplex preamp that I talked about. That it's a more subtle enhancement to the tone, but it also sounds more natural. In the same, it just sounds more natural. Whereas the Sonic Stomp, I always felt like it sounds more unnatural when I use it. It certainly does enhance the tone somewhat, adds more detail and clarity, but it also sounds like kind of unnatural. So I guess that's why I ended up selling it. I ended up keeping the Echoplex for quite a while, like I said, but with the Sonic Stomp, I sold it at the end of 2017 because, yeah, honestly, yeah, it just sounded too like artificial to me because maybe it's doing some processing, right? Like it's adding like, yes, enhanced clarity and detail, but also sounds really unnatural for some reason. Anyways, I guess I just didn't like it as much, whereas the Echoplex, even though it's more subtle, sounded more natural to me. So yeah, that's the BBE Sonic Stomp Mini. I got the mini version and still ended up not really liking it too much because although it enhances the tone, it just sounded too artificial to me, not natural enough. Okay, so in 2022, I replaced my Dunlop Echoplex EP101 with a Cattle and Bread Epoch Boost, which is almost a very similar type pedal, and that's why I did a kind of a shootout here video. It's very similar because they're really trying to do kind of similar things. They're trying to emulate the sound of the Maestro Echoplex EP3 preamp, but to my ears, so what Cattle and Bread does is like they're, I guess, more accurate because on their website they're saying they pretty much reproduce the circuitry exactly of the Maestro Echoplex, including all the capacitors and everything, even using the same orange drop capacitors. Apparently Cattle and Bread, which is by the way, it's a boutique company, same with Xotic. Xotic and Cattle and Bread are both kind of boutique US companies. Xotic is based in California, Cattle and Bread is based in Oregon, I believe, whereas Dunlop is kind of like a bigger company. But yeah, just from like kind of an outside perspective, so it's not just a boost, but it's also turning that preamp knob as well in addition to the volume, and it really tries to mimic the preamp controls, I guess, of the Echoplex, and it duplicates the circuitry of the Echoplex preamp much more accurately than the Dunlop Echoplex EP101 does. So yeah, I eventually ended up keeping the Cattle and Bread Epoch Boost for a bit. I still ended up getting rid of the Cattle and Bread Epoch Boost eventually last year, 2023. And that's only because I felt like it didn't do enough on my pedal board because, well, now I have so many pedals on my pedal board. I just didn't think the Cattle and Bread was doing enough. Yes, it's a nice boost, but I needed something like that does more than just a boost, I guess. And it's an always-on pedal, sure, but I have a lot of always-on pedals, and I guess eventually after I got my tube stutter, I ended up using that as my always-on pedal instead. So yeah, the Cattle and Bread Epoch Boost is nice. I think as a tonal enhancement, like an Echoplex type of tonal enhancement pedal, I preferred it to the Dunlop EP101 and to the Xotic EP Booster, but yeah, eventually it still like couldn't stay on my pedal board because I just didn't think it did enough. That's the thing. Yeah, like it's a boost and it's a tone enhancer that's an always-on pedal, sure, but it still takes up room, right? It's still like, it's not really a mini pedal either, so it still takes up room on my pedal board and just didn't do enough. So anyways, I had the Epoch Boost from 2022 to 2023. All right, so the next category is looper pedals, and these are also kind of buffer pedals as well, since the ones I use do have a buffer on them. And they usually sit at the end of my signal chain. And I usually use looper pedals because I play by myself. I don't really play in bands very much, and that's just because of a timing convenience thing. For me, it's like I often do like impromptu jams by myself and improvisations and stuff. So yeah, I prefer doing this, like doing these kind of I like to just jam by myself, you know, as compared to just getting a band together and then, you know, rehearsing and stuff like that. That's, to me, is like more inconvenient. So anyways, I play by myself most of the time. So that means I use a looper pedal for my background tracks. And my very first looper pedal is the Boss RC2 here. The Boss RC2, I used this, I think in 2011 was when I first used it. And I used it until 2013, and that's because the Boss RC3 came out and I wanted to get the RC3. But the RC2 I used for, yeah, maybe about 2 years, I would say. Yeah, 2011, 2012, half of 2013 I used this. So yeah, you have your basic volume controls here for the loop volume, but you can select up to 11 different loops basically, and you can use them. You can put your own loops on them. You can overdub them and stuff. So you can record your own loops. You overdub it. So yeah, overall it's not that hard to use. As a tap tempo, you have like a right and delay here. Yeah, so in general, it's an easy pedal to use, but the problem with this pedal is that it only stores 11 phrases. So that's the max. Like you can only store up to 11 different loops, and I think that's the main limitation of this pedal, right? That's why the RC3 and what I'm using now, the RC5, stores a lot more. But yeah, the RC2 only stored 11 loops. I think that's the biggest limitation of this pedal. Yeah, that's pretty much the main reason why I upgraded to the RC3. So anyways, I used this one for about 2 years and then upgraded to the RC3 after that. So the Boss RC3, yeah, I got this in 2013. And I used it all the way until 2020 actually. So this is one I've used for quite a while, like a good 7 years I used this pedal for. Pretty familiar with it. So basically I think I can store up to, like, in theory this does have a lot of like different storage space, like to store songs, but internally it didn't actually have enough memory to store all those spaces. So it had like over 50 different memory slots, I think, but in theory I think I can only store about 30 different loops, I think. So after 30 different loops it was like already full. But similar controls to the RC2, I have the volume right for the loop. I can yeah, just select the different memory bank here. There's a tap tempo kind of rhythm loop here for the kind of a built-in drum track. So it's kind of like a drum machine, even though it's not really, but it's kind of like a drum machine. I have the tap tempo here for that. And yeah, this was my main recording tool for creating my own loops for a long time. Yeah, 2013 to 2020. Yeah, and it worked pretty well for that. So RC3 was good. I think the main upgrade from the RC3 to RC5 is basically just increasing the memory slots. So this, and plus this one used USB 2 or something. This used an old version of USB to transfer music files. So it's pretty slow transferring music files over. Plus the memory bank was still kind of limited, like maybe 30 different tracks is what it can hold. Yeah, overall it's still nice looper. It served me well for a long time. Yeah, just upgraded to the RC5 because it could store even more stuff and had a faster USB bus. That's really about it. Okay, now it's like jamming on this one. Okay, yeah, I only really used the mono. I didn't really use the stereo output for this one. But nice. The built-in drum machine kind of comes in handy sometimes as well. I don't use it that often, but sometimes it comes in handy too. Alright, 2015 and 2016, I also had the Digitech Trio. This is a pedal that advertises itself like as a band in a box. So basically you would play some chords and stuff like that. And I guess Beat Buddy was kind of like this too, but it would like automatically determine, you know, the beat that you're playing at, I guess, and it'll like automatically create the bass loop and the drum loop for you, which is cool in theory, but I think when I used it, it actually was kind of confusing to use. it was a hard pedal to use, I think, and I never really got used to it. I think that's why I still ended up selling this pedal, because it was not as straightforward to use as my Boss Looper. So yeah, which is unfortunate. I mean, you guys can see, like, you can pick the genre here, you can pick the style, the tempo, you can turn the level of the bass and drums, but it's supposed to be like you play into it, it'll automatically learn, I guess, the tempo and the style of music and stuff, and they'll try to add the bass and drums automatically, which sounds cool, but in theory it just turned out to be kind of complicated. And there was like these different parts you record, like verse, chorus, and bridge and stuff, but yeah, it was complicated for me to use. I just prefer using the Boss Looper. It was a lot easier for me. So yeah, didn't end up keeping this one that long, less than 2 years. Didn't really end up using that much. I didn't even do a video on it. That tells you guys that I really did not use this pedal that much, because I couldn't really figure out how to use it well. So I think it's the learning curve for this pedal was just a little bit too much for me, unfortunately. But yeah, it was a cool pedal idea and concept, I guess. I just wish it was easier to use. Okay, so in 2018 I got the Boss RC30, which is essentially a bigger version of the loop station that I used before. I wanted to have something a little bit more powerful than my RC3, I guess, and indeed it is more powerful. But I think the problem with this pedal is that the same thing as with the Digitech Trio, which is it was a little bit too complicated to use. So yeah, this definitely had a lot of different features. Mic at a mic level, it was like a mixer almost. Yeah, it was like a mixer. You see all these controls at the back too, right? So it's almost like a mixer pedal, but it had yeah, mic input and mic level, rhythm level. You can adjust many different things, track 1, track 2, loop effects. There's just too much stuff going on with this pedal, I think. Yeah, so it ended up being very hard for me to use this pedal. So I think, again, I prefer using the RC3 because it was more simpler to use. And yeah, I guess I got the RC30 because I thought it would be, you know, more powerful and store more stuff. But when I tried using it, it was a little bit overwhelming for me to use. So yeah, I ended up selling it. I didn't really use it for even a year. I think I sold it the same year, 2018. So didn't really end up using it for too long, unfortunately. But yeah, I just went back to my RC3 after, because this was a little bit too complicated for me to use. But yeah, I did have the RC30 for a little bit there. Okay, so another Boss pedal I had but didn't use for very long was the RC10R. And this one I had in 2019. And yeah, this one, again, I think I wanted to have something a little bit more powerful than the RC3, but this was also a bit more complicated to use as well. Although I recognize some of these controls that are now going to be used on my RC5. So definitely has kind of the same interface and menu as my RC5, but still a bit complicated to use, right? You see that little like loop display thing, a rhythm display. It's kind of confusing. You choose a level menu. So I guess, yeah, and there's two switches here, one for loop and one for rhythm. Just ended up being, again, kind of complicated for me to use. I wanted to get something that was, sure, more powerful than my RC3, but this wasn't it. This ain't it, you know? Like, yeah, it's still like a bit too complicated for me to use, unfortunately. Now, it's not quite as complicated as the RC30, but still, the RC10R, yeah, I think I still preferred my RC3 after this. It was just, the RC3 was just so streamlined and easy for me to use. So, but you guys can tell I did try to experiment with some other different loop stations as well, but didn't turn out to be the right fit for me. So anyways, RC10R, another pedal I had for less than a year. Tried to experiment with it, didn't work out well. I think I'm experimenting with different, they have a lot of different drum station beats in this one, which is cool, but again, there's way too many, almost. Like, this one has way too many drum loops and stuff like that, so it was overwhelming, actually. Pretty overwhelming to figure out how to use this thing. Okay, so this is the Boss RC5, and this ends up being my main looper pedal to this day, because essentially, like, this is like just kind of a revised RC3. I mean, it adds a bit more memory, increases the USB speed, and I find this to be the best one so far. So for me, like, I want to have a loop pedal that's, you know, powerful but also easy to use, and RC5 was the logical upgrade for me after, you know, sticking with the RC3 for such a long time. I tried the RC30, RC10R, none of them, both of them are actually too overwhelming for me to use, but the RC5 is perfect. It really just, It's the RC3, but you know, with a little bit of a tweaked interface, faster USB interface, and more memory slots. It has 100 different slots, and it actually can store, I think, 100 different songs. So it stores way more songs than the RC3 does, and that was really my main issue with the RC3: slow USB bus and not storing enough songs. And the RC5 fixes both of those issues here. So that's the one I'm still using now. I've been using it since 2020. So yeah, and I think I will continue using it for quite a while because I don't see myself changing loops pedals anytime soon. You can also, you know, have a built-in drum station or a drum machine on this as well, which is okay. I don't use the drum stations on the loop stations too much, but or the drum machines, sorry, on the loop stations too much, but yeah, it's there, so that's nice. And I think the most important thing is it stores a lot more tracks and it has a faster USB bus compared to the RC3. So yeah, been using this since 2020, still my main looper pedal that I use for my backing tracks. Okay, let's move on to compressor pedals. Compressors, what I can say is basically a compressor is basically taking the signal of your guitar and squashing it so that, well, you lose a little bit of dynamics, sure, but I think in general it makes your tone more consistent. So that's why I like using compressors. So yes, you do lose some dynamics when you use a compressor, but you also make your tone more consistent. So you make like all the softer parts more loud and more the louder parts more soft, so you get a more consistent tone. A lot of people in the studio use compressors. So my first compressor pedal was the MXR custom compressor, which I got in 2014, and I used it until 2015. So I used it for less than 2 years. But yeah, all my like guitar videos that you see in 2014, basically I was using the MXR custom compressor. But it's pretty simple, straightforward, nice compressor to use, and yeah, I think that it's fairly simplistic. I think it's based on the MXR Dynacomp, so it's based on a pretty classic compressor here. So yeah, you have the output sensitivity, which is basically the attack threshold, whatever you want to call that. And yeah, I use this basically to add more consistency to my tone. Also, I kind of use this as a kind of like a master mixer knob as well, so I can control the overall volume like of my tone. So I can kind of squash, like I can take a whole bunch of, if I have a huge pedal board, which I think in 2014 I didn't have like that big of a pedal board yet, but eventually I would. And the compressor ends up being like an almost always on pedal for me because I put on all the pedals. I want to like experiment with different pedals. I turn all of them on, and I just send the whole thing through the compressor and squash it so that it doesn't overwhelm the amp. So that's what I end up using it for. It's kind of like a master mixer volume control here. So anyways, MXR Custom Comp was a pretty good pedal. The only reason is because I got the Xotic compressor, and the Xotic compressor was a smaller pedal that took up less space on the board and also more powerful. So yeah, the Xotic compressor just turned out to be like a smaller, more powerful version of this pedal. So that's why I got rid of this one. But this one was good for what it does. Okay, so this is the Xotic compressor, the SP compressor actually, and this has been my main compressor since 2015, and I still use it now. This is, out of all the pedals I've used, I think from that time, from 2015 onwards, this is like my most used pedal because it's pretty much always been on, and I don't have any reason to really upgrade this pedal, so this has been the single most important pedal in terms of consistency on my board for all this time in terms of actual use, right? I leave this on pretty much all the time since 2015 in pretty much all my guitar videos. It's almost an essential part of my tone for me. Like, it's pretty simple to operate as a volume blend, and then it has 3 levels of compression, high, low, and mid. It's pretty powerful for what it is. It's based on the Ross compressor, which is also based on Dynacomp compressor, but yeah, this one is small but powerful, and I like it. It doesn't take up too much space on my board, and it's really good for what it does. And like I said, I just take a whole bunch of pedals and my pedal board, and I just put it all into this compressor as an input, and then this thing will just squash it all and just kind of like tame it for my amp, I guess. If I don't have this compressor on, the amount of pedals I have on will create like kind of chaos. Like this signal and everything will be kind of chaotic. So that's why I use this compressor to kind of tame everything, down, and it acts as basically like a master mixer volume control. echo from my amp. So this is just to kind of tame down my guitar signal when I have a bunch of other pedals going into this compressor. And this compressor really is one of the last parts of my signal chain, pretty much right before the reverb and the looper. So yeah, this is a pedal that's always been on my pedal board all the time, and I pretty much leave it on all the time because I want to have my tone be consistent. I don't want to overwhelm the amp with all the different effects that I have, all the different pedals that I have on and stuff. I just want to have it, you know, be like kind of smoothed out for my amp. So that's what this compressor is for. Yeah, it's a pretty important part of my tone.
Still using it.
Alright, moving on to modulation effects, which is basically chorus, delay, and reverb. My very first modulation effect was the BBE 2-timer delay. I got this back in 2010, I believe. Around the same time I got the BBE Green Screamer and BBE Benoit. But yeah, all the BBE pedals I kind of got around the same time. But the 2-timer is a pretty good analog delay. It has two different delays actually in this pedal. It has two switches. One is for like one delay and one is for another delay. So basically you can adjust the delay separately for different times. This is useful if you have like, if you want to have one slapback delay and then one longer delay. Then it has a repeat and mix log. So overall it's a pretty nice delay. Yeah, I used this for a bit. I think I used this until maybe 2015, I think is when I got the Keeley magnetic echo, and that kind of replaced this. But yeah, I used this from maybe 2010 to 2015, so that's a good like 5 years I used this thing. So this is a pretty good pedal. Yeah, just I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with this pedal. It's just that I wanted to have a different type of sound, I guess, is all. So this is a decent analog delay. You can set it for 2 different times, which I didn't really use this feature all that much, but yeah, all in all, I think it's a solid delay, especially for the price, because BBE pedals are not too expensive. Solid pedal for the you know, budget guitarist, I think. So yeah, I ended up using this for a good 5 years until I think I went. Yeah, the delay I got next was probably the magnetic echo. So, but the BBE 2-timer was a pretty good one, served me well for many years. So yeah, in 2015 I got the Keeley magnetic echo, which is, this is a kind of a digital delay. I mean, the name says echo because it's trying to be like a tape echo, but it's not really a tape echo. It's a digital delay trying to simulate a tape echo. But overall, I think this is a pretty nice digital delay. I used this for, let's see, maybe I got it from 2015, and I think I used it until 2017 because I think that's when I got the Boss DM2W, which kind of replaced it. But yeah, the magnetic echo I used for probably like, yeah, maybe less than 2 years, but like 2015, 2016, half of 2017, I probably had this pedal. Didn't really see too much use again because I was in Korea for most of the time. But for I think probably, yeah, half a year, this was, yeah, on a decent amount of videos I did, I guess. But yeah, the Keeley magnetic echo has a lot of controls because it's trying to be kind of like a tape delay, but it's not. And yeah, it's essentially a digital delay. It's a pretty nice sounding digital delay. So yeah, the only reason is I eventually ended up replacing it with the Boss DM2W because I still prefer the analog delay sound of the DM2W a little bit more. But as a digital delay, I think the Keeley magnetic echo is definitely a pretty good one. It's pretty powerful. It's not exactly the same as I think there are better digital delays out there in terms of like actually reproducing the tape delay sound. Like right now my Hermida EPH3 or the Catalan Red Bella Epoch I think does a better job of replicating a digital delay, but still the Keeley magnetic echo is decent. It's not expensive, you can find it easily, they still make it, Keeley still makes it, so it's widely available. If you're looking for a budget delay pedal, yeah, the magnetic echo is pretty decent. It's just that I wanted to have an analog delay type of sound, so I ended up replacing this with the Boss. So, yeah, anyways, pretty nice delay, digital delay, I guess. So in 2017, I got my first reverb pedal, which is the Hermida reverb by Hermida Audio. was a boutique pedal company, and yeah, this one was a pretty good spring reverb. So it only does spring reverb. There's many different types of reverbs, but I think I got this pedal because my Milkman 1 Watt Plus amp, which is the new amp I got at the time, did not have a built-in reverb, and I really wanted to have reverb because that's one of the effects that I think are essential for my guitar tone. I didn't need it before because my Swart Atomic Junior amp had built-in spring reverb, but with my Milkman amp, it didn't have spring reverb. So I got the Hermida reverb. I used this for maybe like half a year, I think. It's a good reverb pedal. It's just that I ended up dumping it for the Keeley Omni reverb instead, because the Keeley did more different reverb types. So that's pretty much it. But I think as a spring reverb reproduction, I think the Catalan bred Topanga and the Hermida reverb are probably two of the best on the market. I chose this one over the Topanga, but it's a pretty tough choice. But yeah, this is the Hermida reverb, and yeah, you guys can see I didn't use this reverb for all that much. Maybe just half a year. Some of my recordings have it. Yeah, it's a pretty good reverb pedal. Nothing bad about it, just I went with the Keeley because it simulates more reverb styles, and the Hermida reverb only did spring reverb. So that's pretty much what it did. I think in terms of being a spring reverb though, this is actually better than the one on my Keeley Omni reverb. So as a specialized spring reverb, I think this one is a lot better. But yeah, ended up not using it for that long, unfortunately. But it is a good reverb pedal, for sure, for spring reverb. Okay, so actually in this video I have two different modulation pedals that I got around the same time. So yeah, one of them is the Keeley Omni reverb. My second reverb pedal, this one replaced my Hermida reverb because it actually can simulate three different reverbs, not just spring, but it does room, spring, and plate reverb. Room, spring, and plate are probably the three main reverbs that you'll often see. Pretty simple controls, dwell and level. And yeah, I used this reverb for a very long time. So I got this in 2017, and I used this all the way until 2022. So like over 5 years I used this reverb quite a bit. This was a pretty good reverb. I eventually ended up replacing it with the Fender Marine layer, but yeah, it took a while to replace it. So I used this one for quite a bit. So yeah, I would say the spring reverb setting isn't quite as convincing as the Hermida reverb, but because of its versatility, you know, because it has three different types, the room, spring, and plate setting, which is pretty much the main reverb types I would want. I think I ended up, you know, just keeping this on my pedal board for many, many years. So anyways, the Keeley Omni reverb, this is the reverb pedal I've used for the longest. Over 5 years I've used this reverb pedal. It's one of those pedals it's okay as a reverb. It's pretty decent at doing all these reverbs. Not the best necessarily, right? Not the best at doing any of these particular reverbs, and certainly if you spend money on a Strymon and Blue Sky, I think that one can do some things better. And you know, other reverbs, like more specialized one, I do think the Catalan bred Topanga Hermida reverb does a spring better. And then you have some specialized ones, right? UA effects or Origin effects might do some things better. They're also more expensive. But the Omni reverb, being a kind of affordable reverb that does your main three reverbs at a decent level, I think. And that's really, yeah, it just does everything at a decent level, and it's reasonably affordable. So ended up using this one for quite a while. So yeah, the Keeley Omni reverb. And another pedal I got around the same time to kind of replace my Keeley Magnetic Echo was the Boss DM2W delay. And this is an analog delay. I just kind of wanted to have the sound of an analog delay, not digital delay like the Magnetic Echo. But yeah, this is a pretty nice analog delay. Again, I think I had this for a good 5 years. I think up until 2022 I used it. So this is a delay pedal I've used for a long time. I really do like the sound of the DM2W. It's a pretty nice, warm, darker delay. So it's not like a bright delay like a carbon copy or anything. But it's a darker delay. And yeah, the DM2W is pretty good. It's Boss, right? So you know it's pretty reliable. And this being a Wazacraft version, it has this extra mode where you can kind of add additional milliseconds of repeat time. So yeah, I think overall it's a pretty nice delay. Just I ended up replacing it with something a little bit more powerful, which was the Catalan bred Bella Epoch, I believe. So yeah, anyways, this is a pretty nice delay. Used it for a pretty decent amount of time. Same thing with my Omni reverb. I used both of these pedals for over 5 years, so they were pretty good. But yeah, Boss Wazacraft DM2W was my main delay for over 5 years. Still sounds pretty good. I mean, still wouldn't mind using it. It's just, yeah, I went to a more tape delay type of sound again. Yeah, this was analog delay, and this is a really nice analog delay sound, but then I went back to tape delay. So in 2022, I got my first chorus pedal, which is the Boss Dimension C DC2W. And I got this, normally I don't like chorus pedals, but I got this because it actually isn't very chorus-like. I guess it's, I mean, it is sort of a chorus pedal, right? You can hear like a doubling of the sound, of the signal, but in a way, it's not like other chorus pedals too, because it doesn't have too much shifting, I guess. So anyways, I heard this pedal referred to as the chorus pedal for people who don't like chorus. And that makes sense to me because I usually don't like chorus, but I think this pedal was unique. It's kind of the studio rack effect that was used in the 1980s. I think Stevie Ray Vaughan used it a bunch, and I thought it was pretty interesting. So I got this pedal. It does have a very interesting sound to it. Like, yeah, it has this kind of like, it has kind of like a chorus sound, but not really. It's kind of like this doubling harmonizing sound, kind of almost like an echo. But also like, yeah, just kind of like this harmonizer type of sound, which is pretty interesting. And there's 4 different modes because this is the Wazacraft version, which you can switch between the rack type effect that they had in the 80s, and you can switch between the, I guess, more enhanced capabilities of the Wazacraft mode. Either way, it's an expensive pedal. I think it's at least $200. I think I paid more than $200 for it. And it's a pretty unique effect. So the thing is, I ended up not using this effect as much as I wanted to. So yeah, I didn't end up using this effect that much. So I ended up selling it. I had this for about 2 years, 2020 to 2022, I think. Yeah, didn't end up using it on many songs. It's a cool effect. I just couldn't figure out how to use it or where to use it, I guess. So anyways, just a cool effect, but didn't really find a place for it, unfortunately. But that's the Boss Dimension C DC2W, which I had for a few years. So the next delay pedal I have in my history is the Cattle and Bread Bella Epoch. So yeah, this is a delay pedal because it's a tape echo pedal, which is a sort of a delay. And this one kind of replaced my Boss DM2W. So I had my Boss DM2W for over 5 years, like I mentioned, and wanted to get a new delay pedal just to have something a little bit different, more powerful, I guess. In the Bella Epoch Tape Echo it's interesting because this one contains the effect of the Echoplex preamp. So as you guys remember, I had a Dunlop EP101 and also the Cattle and Bread Epoch Boost. I had all these like tonal enhancers, right, which are supposed to duplicate the Maestro Echoplex EP3 preamp effect. But the Cattle and Bread Bella Epoch has that built in. So essentially with this pedal, I no longer need to have another pedal on my board that does kind of the same thing for tonal conditioning. So this one already colors my tone when I have it on, and it has the same effect as the Dunlop and the Cattle and Bread pedals. So yeah, that's kind of convenient. So that's why I went for this one. And yeah, the Tape Echo is a pretty interesting effect. So the Bella Epoch is a very powerful pedal. So this one, as you can see, there's 5 different knobs here, and you can get this pedal anywhere from like a small slapback delay all the way to like a crazy type of space effect, whatever crazy psychedelic effect that you want. This thing is powerful, so it has a huge range of controls. I would say it's more powerful than yeah, the Keeley Magnetic Echo or the Boss DM2W that I used before. So it's definitely the most powerful delay pedal I think I've used in terms of the range and what it does. So the thing about this pedal is that I ended up, so it's almost like it's too powerful, you know. I end up not using the higher settings that much because it's too crazy. And if you yeah, basically when you push all the controls up, the knobs, and you dial them all up, it becomes way too crazy and unusable basically for me, because I don't use those types of sounds. I'm not Johnny Greenwood from Radiohead. You know, I don't use these type of crazy effects. So not that much anyway. So I end up not using those crazy effects from this pedal and using it just as kind of like a slapback. And then in that sense, I thought, oh, maybe I should just get a pedal that's not as powerful, because this is too powerful for me. This pedal does too much. So yeah, a little bit too powerful for me. So I ended up replacing this, and actually I did kind of a shootout. I think that I tried using the Keeley Caverns as well as the Hermida EPH3, which is what I'm sticking with right now. But yeah, I ended up replacing this because this was too much for me. It's too powerful, which is funny, right? It does too much basically. I ended up not using the powerful effects that much. Okay, so the Boss RV6 is another reverb I got. This was back in 2022. I got this as kind of like a comparison. I wanted to shoot it out between these different other reverb pedals that I had. And the reverb, the Boss RV6 is a pretty powerful reverb. Does a lot of different reverb effects. Yeah, there's like 7 different reverb effects, I think. But the thing is, the RV6 didn't sound convincing enough for me. So yeah, I ended up not really using it that much, unfortunately. Yeah. I mean, it's a good reverb, but it's just not convincing enough. And the thing is, even with my Keeley Omni reverb, which I don't think is that convincing either, I ended up just picking the Fender Marine layer over both of these. So yeah, the Boss RV6 I ended up not just like doing for this demo shootout, and I didn't really use it for anything else. But the Fender Marine layer, by the way, this is one that I ended up keeping until now, actually, because this is a nice reverb pedal that ended up replacing my Keeley Omni reverb, and as well as the RV6, basically. But yeah, I got this as part of the shootout, and basically I won the shootout because I do like the, I think the ambient reverb that I get from this is a bit more convincing for me. There's a few variations of the hall, room, and shimmer types, I think. So it does actually not like, it's not actually as versatile as the Omni reverb because it doesn't do the plate or the spring, but it does a pretty good room and hall reverb, and that's what I mostly use it for. It's subtle, but it sounds pretty natural to me. So yeah, so the Fender Marine layer reverb isn't perfect. It doesn't do the plate and it doesn't do the spring, but I do think that the room and the hall reverb here are pretty convincing. So I just ended up liking the sound from that, and I've been using it to this day. So Fender Marine layer reverb is my main reverb unit that I still use. So mostly I just keep it in the room or hall position, and it sounds pretty natural to me. I just pretty much leave it always on in my effects loop now. But yeah, I got it back in 2022 as part of this reverb shootout. So in 2023 I got the Maxon 89. So this is another analog delay, and this one was the one I got to kind of replace my Catalan bred Bella Epoch, because as I said, the Bella Epoch was a little bit too powerful for me, and decided to go back to an analog delay after the Bella Epoch is essentially a digital delay, I guess, that tries to reproduce the Echoplex really well, but the analog delay, instead of going back to the Boss DM2W, I decided to try something a bit different, and yeah, I decided to try the Maxon 89, and I've had a good experience with Maxon pedals before, so yeah, I decided to try this, and I used this for maybe less than 2 years, 2023, and up until this year I used the 89, until the 89 got replaced by the Hermida EPH3 for me, but yeah, the 89 is a pretty good delay. I mean, for analog delay, it's pretty simple to use. It just has three knobs, your delay time and level and repeat, so it's pretty easy to use. And it has a nice dark type of repeat, so pretty similar to the Boss DM2W in that aspect. Not quite as powerful as the DM2W, because the DM2W has you know, that other Waza effect of adding, you know, that extra delay time and switch. But overall, it's a pretty nice delay for people who want a nice solid analog delay that's pretty simple to use. So yeah, and it's well built because it's Maxon, right? Japanese built and everything. So actually similar to the Boss. They're both pretty well built. You know, Boss and Maxon are both really nice. But yeah, I would say not too much difference between the 89 and the DM2W. They're both really nice analog delays. I just didn't want to rebuy the DM2W again, and I wanted to go back to an analog delay, so that's why I went with the 89. But I ended up swapping out the 89 again because I went back to another tape echo again. So I know I go back and forth a lot, but yeah, this one stayed on my pedal board for probably less than 2 years. It's a nice analog delay, but I went back to tape echo again, essentially. Okay, so this year, 2024, I tried the Keeley Caverns, which is another delay. Actually, this is a combination delay and reverb, which is kind of interesting because I can have two effects in one single pedal, which kind of interested me. But yeah, the delay and reverb combined together, the Keeley Caverns. And I compared it in the shootout video to the Catalan Bred Bella Epoch and the Maxon 89. I don't think that the... So the thing about the Keeley Caverns is that the delay part of it is just the mag echo, which I've already used before. So yeah, which is kind of funny. I mean, like, I sold the mag echo for the Boss DM2W. I sold the DM2W for the Bella Epoch. I sold the Bella Epoch for the 89, which you see here. And I sold the 89, I mean, it's actually still in this video, but yeah, 89, I pushed it off because I want to do another shootout between the Bella Epoch and the Keeley Caverns, which ironically has the Keeley magnetic echo in it. So it's like a circle, right? We go back in a circle. This one has the mag echo again. But yeah, like, it's essentially the Keeley mag echo for the delay side, and the reverb side is similar to something from the Keeley Omni Reverb. So I would say this: the Keeley Caverns is a nice all-around pedal because it's got a pretty solid reverb and it's got a pretty solid digital delay in it. Because the mag echo is a pretty solid digital delay, but it's not really my favorite for either of those things. I think that Keeley's reverb is not quite as convincing to me as my Fender reverb, and the mag echo delay isn't quite as convincing as the Catalan Bred or my current Hermida delay. So I ended up not really liking the delay on this because the mag echo is a good delay, but I still prefer my tape echo delays, and even the analog delays, even the Boss DM2W or the Maxon 89, I prefer over the mag echo delay. So anyways, Caverns, I was just there testing it out. Basically, I didn't really use it for any songs. Okay, so the Hermida EPH3, this is my current delay pedal. And I was doing a shootout between this and the Catalan Bred Bella Epoch, and these are both Maestro Echoplex EP3 simulations, basically. The Bella Epoch is more powerful, as I mentioned before. It also has actually both of these pedals have the built-in EP3 preamp simulation, so I don't need to have the Catalan Bred Epoch Boost or the Dunlop EP101 pedal anymore because these ones have the built-in effect of the preamp, which makes your tone more warmer, gives it, you know, the tone enhancing capabilities. So that's another benefit of getting the tape delay pedals that are based on the Echoplex, because they enhance your tone as well when they're on. But yeah, out of these two, I actually prefer the EPH3. It's not quite as powerful, but it's simpler to use, and it still sounds really good. So I think it was like this. The Bella Epoch is powerful. It can do, it's more powerful than the Hermida EPH3. Can get a lot more types of sounds out of the Bella Epoch, but the APH3 is simpler to use, and I find it's easier to dial in a good tone with it. So whereas with the Bella Epoch, maybe because it's got 5 knobs and it's so powerful, it's harder to get a good tone out of it. The Hermida EPH3 is like, okay, I just set my controls like this, my knobs like this, and you know, I get a good tone out of it. Pretty simple, pretty easy to get a good tone out of that. So I end up keeping the Hermida EPH3. This is my main delay pedal from this year, basically. We'll see how long it lasts, but for now I'm pretty satisfied with it. Is there times I prefer an analog delay, like like the Boss DM2W or the Maxon 89? Yeah, sometimes, but I think the EPH3 is really good. It just sounds good no matter what setting I put it on. Whereas, yeah, the Catalan Bred Bella Epoch, I had to fiddle around the knobs a lot to get the right setting for a good tone. The Hermida just gets good tone no matter what, and yeah, both of them enhance your tone. So anyways, they're both good pedals. The Catalan Bred Bella Epoch is more powerful, the Hermida EPH3. I feel I can dial in a better tone with it easier, and also it's simpler to use, so I ended up keeping that one. That's my main delay pedal until now. Yeah, so so yeah, that's all my modulation pedal history. Alright, so now time for the last part of this video, which is overdrives and distortion pedals. And this is going to be the longest part of this video because I've had the most overdrive / distortion pedals. That's why I saved it for last. So we're starting out with my first overdrive or distortion pedal. This is the Dan Electro Fab Distortion. I got it back in 2005, 2006, I think. I used it during high school. It's a pretty cheap pedal. You can tell from the plastic and everything. It's very small, pretty easy to use. There's only 3 knobs here. Looks pretty cool. Looks like a spaceship. Yeah, it was cheap. It was like 30 bucks, I think. Yeah, pretty cheap pedal. As I remember, the sound was okay. It's not a great sound, but it sounded better than my Digitech RP50 multi-effects unit, and that's all that mattered. I wanted to get distortion sound, right, because I was doing the Jimi Hendrix thing. Of course, I was into Led Zeppelin, other classic rock bands as well. But yeah, the Dan Electro Fab Distortion was my first distortion pedal, and used it for probably less than a year, probably until 2006, and then upgraded to the Visual Sound Jekyll and Hyde, I believe, was my next overdrive distortion pedal. But yeah, this one was the one I started out with, pretty cheap. Sounded okay for the price, for sure. It's not a bad pedal. Sounds okay for the price, cheaply built. It's a beginner guitar gear. I mean, it's a beginner guitar pedal, so what can I say? It's a good one to start out with. Too bad Dan Electro doesn't really make these anymore, but they were good for the time. I think they made like a whole series of this. They made an overdrive pedal as well as some other fat pedals, but yeah, I picked the distortion one, and I think I remember it was just okay. Yeah, but especially for the price, I think it's pretty decent. Okay, so my second distortion pedal after the Fab Distortion was the Jekyll and Hyde by Visual Sound. This is another pretty unique pedal. I think I had it for maybe 2 years, 2006, 2007. I remember playing this in my dorm as well and mixing it with the Jimi Hendrix fuzz wall and creating like all sorts of chaotic noises, and my neighbors complaining and everything. Yeah, people like knocking on my door saying, "Oh, the noise is too much, you know, too loud." Yeah, this thing can get pretty loud because it's a combination overdrive and distortion. The overdrive circuit, I believe, is just a tube screamer type circuit, and the distortion side, I think, is like a Proco Rat. But it's combined together. If you combine it together, you can definitely create some pretty loud noises. There's a switch between sharp and blunt. I kind of forget what that did. But yeah, I just remember this pedal getting pretty loud because it's a combination overdrive and distortion. You can either have a distortion or an overdrive, and you can have them both on at the same time and stack it together. So you can create some pretty crazy loud noises with this thing, for sure. And yeah, ended up keeping this for 2 years. I had the Jimi Hendrix Digitech pedal, which kind of replaced this. And yeah, the Digitech Jimi Hendrix pedal is technically in distortion pedal as well, because it also does distortion, but it's a multi-effects pedal. I've already covered it in my wah section, so you guys don't need to hear about it again. But yeah, technically the Jimi Hendrix Experience pedal by Digitech, that one is also a overdrive distortion pedal because it's a multi-effects unit. And yeah, I've already covered it in this video already, so I don't think I need to talk about it again, but that's pretty much what replaced this this Jekyll and Hyde overdrive. But this Jekyll and Hyde was pretty good, especially having the dual overdrive distortion concept was pretty unique for the time, I think. Okay, so the next overdrive distortion pedal is the BBE Green Screamer, which I got back in 2010. I used this until roughly 2014, I think. This is basically a Tube Screamer clone. Yeah, it's BBE's version of the Tube Screamer, and I use this as my main overdrive. I would say probably combined it with my Maxon TB09 and used it for about 4 years, 2010 to maybe 2014, 2013 or 2014 actually. Yeah, is when I used it. And yeah, it's an okay pedal. I mean, it's a pretty decent Tube Screamer clone. And if you guys know what a Tube Screamer is, it's a pretty standard overdrive type sound. Adds a mid-range push, and yeah, it's good for boosting a solo and stuff. Yeah, so overall it's pretty simple to use. Got some pretty cool graphics on this first version of it. They made some revisions, but this is the first version with the plane on it. I think now the BBE version is called the Gus Green Screamer or something. They have it like with some signature artist there. But yeah, it's a pretty solid Tube Screamer clone, I'd say. So anyways, this was my next, actually technically it's my first overdrive pedal. That's standalone, because the Visual Sound Jekyll and Hyde was kind of like a combination pedal. But yeah, this was kind of my first standalone overdrive pedal, was the BBE Green Screamer.
Except that sounds
Okay, so my next overdrive distortion pedal is the Maxon TB09, which is also a booster type pedal as well. But it's a combination booster overdrive pedal. It's tube powered as well, so you can see it has this sub-miniature vacuum tube inside of it, which is pretty interesting. Yeah, this pedal was expensive. I mean, yeah, these tube powered pedals are expensive, but I used this one for quite a bit. I think was until 2017 or 2018 I had it. I had it for quite a while, and I had it since 2012. So I remember getting this in 2012, used it until probably 2017 I think is when I got these other overdrive pedals to kind of replace it. But yeah, combination booster overdrive pedal that's actually kind of transparent. Is how Maxon advertises it anyways. It's not built on the Tube Screamer circuit, believe it or not. It's actually built on the what they call it, the Overdrive Pro circuit, the OD820, I think is what it's built on, which is a different circuit than the 808. The OD808 is the Tube Screamer circuit. The 820 is a different circuit, and the VOP9 is also based on this circuit as well. But the TB09 adds in the tube to the VOP9. You can kind of dial in how much the tube affects the tone and everything. But overall, I would say that this pedal is pretty solid booster overdrive pedal. It's just, for me, this pedal gets a little bit muddy at times, and yeah, like that's the only thing. It's okay, like to booster and overdrive. It doesn't color the tone too much. But yeah, I think my issue with this pedal was that it gets a little bit too muddy sometimes and doesn't quite have the clarity that I wanted. So that's why I ended up selling this pedal, because I really prefer the Wampler Euphoria instead. The Wampler Euphoria to me was just, yeah, that kind of just blew this away in terms of tone. But TB09, especially the tube power thing, was, I guess that's pretty cool to have. Yeah, I used it for a decent amount of time. 2012 to 2017 is a decent amount of time, right? So, yeah, I used this to add extra grit to my solos and guitar playing, of course, during those years. Okay, so the next OD distortion pedal I had was the MXR Custom Badass Modified OD. I don't actually have a video of this one because I used it from 2014 to 2016, I think. That was back before I did any videos on my pedal board. But yeah, this is like, so this is an interesting overdrive. I think I liked it. So it has the 4 controls, tone, output gain, and a booster type of knob here, a bump. But it also has this kind of 100 hertz knob right here, which boosts the frequency at 100 hertz. So it's kind of like a mid boost as well. So this is a pretty interesting pedal. I think I really enjoyed using this one actually, because you can hear it on a lot of my playing from back in 2014. So yeah, I don't have a video on it because yeah, I didn't do that many pedal board videos back then. But yeah, this one I remember being a pretty decent OD for the sound. It's basically almost like a Tube Screamer with a controllable mid frequency boost. So overall, it's fairly good at what it does, I think. I just ended up replacing it with the Wampler Euphoria, I think, because I like the versatility of the Euphoria more. But this one, it was a pretty solid overdrive. I remember using it for a lot of my solos back in 2014. So anyways, yeah, I used the MXR Custom Badass Modified OD for a few years. Okay, so this is another overdrive pedal that I never really used that much, but this is the Hermida Audio Dover Drive, which I got back in 2015, and I had it until 2016. I didn't use it for very long because at that time I was living in Korea, so I didn't actually had a chance to use this very long. It's a pedal that's meant to kind of simulate Eric Johnson's tone, specifically the tone of a Chandler tube driver, which is what Eric Johnson used. And pretty simple, actually controls volume, tone, and gain, and it does kind of nail the Eric Johnson tone really well, I think. The only thing about this pedal is that, again, it's not very versatile. It's really meant just to get that David Gilmour, Eric Johnson type of tone. And yeah, that's pretty much about it. Like, in terms of versatility, like, yeah, I didn't end up actually using it that much. That's the thing. Like, I don't really play too much Eric Johnson or even David Gilmour. I don't know many other artists, like maybe some do use the tube driver, the BK Butler tube driver. I know people call it Chandler, but it's technically the BK Butler tube driver. Yeah, I don't know how many other people use the tube driver, but it seems to be kind of a specialized type of tone for me. It definitely isn't as versatile as the Wampler Euphoria or even the Keeley Oxblood, which I've had back in 2017. So yeah, the Dover Drive basically just ended up getting replaced once I got the Euphoria, because the Euphoria is just way more versatile than this thing. Not to say that this is a bad pedal or anything. I think it's a pretty nice sounding pedal for what it is, but it just, yeah, it's kind of like a one-trick pony, essentially. So it ended up not being versatile enough for me. But yeah, I just do want to mention the Hermida Dover Drive. Pretty cool pedal for what it is. Interesting tone, but yeah, it just does that tone. That's it. A one-trick pony, essentially. The next distortion overdrive pedal I have is the Ramble FX Marvel Drive. So this one I got back in 2015, and I used it until 2018. So yeah, had this one for a few years. I didn't actually use it on that many videos, and I think that's why I ended up selling it, because I ended up not using it as much as I wanted it to. But it's essentially a Marshall Plexi in a box. So it's the sound of the big half stack, full stack Marshall Plexi amps. And there's a lot of Plexi in a box type amps, this being one of them. And I think this is probably one of the better ones on the market. There's a lot of them, right? You got the purple Plexi, you got the Plexi Drive, you got the El Rey Dorado. You got a lot of different Plexi type, Plexi in a box type amps. But Ramble FX, which by the way doesn't exist anymore because the owner passed away a few years ago, unfortunately. But yeah, the Marble Drive was probably one of the better ones, one of the better Plexi and amp type pedals. And what I really liked about it was also the appearance, because the top half of this pedal, as you guys can see, is trying to mimic the plexiglass controls of the Marshall Plexi. So yeah, you have the same kind of knobs, the same kind of red indicator light, and the same kind of plexiglass as you would see on a Marshall Plexi, which is pretty cool. Just from the appearance of this alone, I think this is a pretty cool thing. And yeah, to me, this also tries to duplicate the sound of the Marshall Plexis being jumped across each other with patch cables, which is what a lot of guitarists did back in the day. Jimi Hendrix, Jimmy Page, I guess they did that kind of thing. So it simulates that. Yeah, it's so. I would say this is a good Plexi in a box amp. I just didn't end up using it. Sorry, this is a good Plexi in a box type pedal. I just didn't end up using it that much because, well, by this time, this is 2017. When I recorded, no, 2016. By the time I recorded this video, I wasn't as much into Jimi Hendrix as before. Like up until like maybe 2014, I was really into Jimi Hendrix. But yeah. By 2016, 2017, I wasn't playing too much Jimi Hendrix anymore. I was kind of broadening out into other guitarists like Larry Carlton and stuff. So I wasn't really looking for this Plexi in a box type sound anymore. So yeah, I think that's why I ended up not really using it that much, and I ended up getting rid of it, unfortunately. But the Marvel Drive is a pretty good pedal, I think. If you want to get those Marshall Plexi in a box type tones, then the Marvel Drive is pretty good for that. Just I wasn't looking for Plexi in a box type tones at that time, because yeah, I was looking for more. I was doing other types of songs back then, like Larry Carlton and. Yeah, kind of jazzy type song. George Benson, right? I did a lot of those type jams. So obviously Plexi in a box type pedals don't work for that. So anyways, still pretty cool pedal though. I think it's kind of hard to find these days now because the owner passed away. But yeah, the newer version has that presence knob and it turned into an extra Marshall type knob. But here it's just kind of a mini knob as well. Okay, so next overdrive is the Wampler Euphoria. This is a great overdrive, and I used this one for many years. I used this from 2016 all the way up to 2023. So like over 8 years I used this pedal. It's been on a lot of my videos. Yeah, actually maybe 7 years, not quite 8 years, but anyways, I used the Euphoria for quite a while. What I like about it was, first of all, it's transparent, so it calls itself a natural transparent overdrive. It doesn't color your tone too much. It's kind of a unique circuit. I guess the closest thing is a Timmy, but it's not really a Timmy either. It's like, it's like a Timmy with a bit more gain on it actually. So you have smooth mode, which is kind of like trying to be like a Dumble type overdrive, trying to add in that touch responsiveness, smooth breakup of a Dumble amplifier. And then open setting and crunch setting is a higher output, higher gain. So yeah, it's almost like a Timmy that can go higher gain, I guess. And yeah, this is a pretty versatile pedal. This is one of the most versatile overdrive pedals. To me, it's an underrated pedal. Not many people talk about the Euphoria, but I think more people should talk about it. It's a unique design. It's an original circuit by Brian Wampler, and it's very versatile. You can do anything from the D-type overdrive all the way up to, you can even make it sound more like a tube screamer if you wanted it to. Yeah, it's like, and it's transparent, so it doesn't color your tone as much as a tube screamer. But yeah, overall, this was one of my favorite overdrives. I kept it on my board for a really long time. So yeah, the Wampler Euphoria, have to mention it because this is definitely one of my main overdrives for a really long time. Also in this same video, you notice this this pedal here as well, which we'll get to. So this one here, might as well just talk about this one now, but this is the Keeley Oxblood Germanium. So the Keeley Oxblood is a pedal that Mr. Robert Keeley made that is not really a copy of the Klon Centaur, but it's trying to kind of get the Klon Centaur type of sound, but it adds in a whole bunch of other modifications as well. So it's really kind of its unique circuit. It takes the Klon Centaur and just kind of runs with the adding in some extra features. So the fat switch and the clipping switch adds in a bit more tonal possibility. So it's a bit more versatile than the Klon Centaur, I believe. So I ended up not keeping this version. The Germanium version, I think, adds a bit more treble and a bit more gain, in my opinion. A bit more like treble focus gain, I guess. I didn't end up liking the sound as much as the Euphoria, actually. I mean, the Oxblood is a nice pedal. It's a very versatile Klon type pedal. It's probably the most versatile Klon type pedal because it has all these extra switches. But I ended up not liking the sound as much as my Wampler Euphoria. It just felt like my Euphoria, yeah, just I like the tonality of the Euphoria better. They're both versatile pedals. It might be just this Germanium version. I didn't get the non-Germanium version actually. This Germanium version is kind of a limited version, but yeah, I ended up not really keeping this one on my board and ended up opting for the Euphoria instead. I think I kept this one for less than a year. Like, I had it in 2017. I think I just, yeah, kept it for less than a year. But yeah, I had the Oxblood Germanium as well for this shootout. Good pedal, versatility, but not as good as Euphoria in my opinion. Alright, so the next two overdrive pedals I kind of got around the same time is the Maxon TOD9 and Maxon OD9 Plus. So let's talk about them. So the Maxon OD9 Plus is essentially the Maxon OD9, which is a tube screamer TS9 essentially, with an extra boost on it. So it's an enhanced version of a TS9. So this is basically what you would expect. It's a tube screamer type of sound, which means it pushes your mid-range and your basic three knobs there, your drive, your level, and your tone. But you have an extra boost switch here as well, which kind of pushes up, you know, it adds a boost. So yeah, it's exactly what it says. It's an OD9, which is a TS9 with a boost, Pro Plus. So I didn't keep this pedal for very long. I think I got this in 2019. I didn't really keep it for that long because, well, it doesn't do enough. It's just a tube screamer with a boost. So I think compared to the TOD9 is more interesting. So if you look at the Maxon TOD9, this is similar to the TB09 that I had before, except the TB09 was a boost overdrive pedal. This one is just an overdrive pedal, and it's based on a different circuit. So the TB09, like I said, was not based on the tube screamer circuit. It was based on the OD820 circuit, which is kind of a more transparent circuit. The TOD9, on the other hand, is actually based on the tube screamer circuit. So this is based on the OD9 circuit, the TS9 circuit, the tube screamer circuit, essentially. So this is basically just a tube screamer with a tube stage added, which adds a little bit more warmth and a little bit more gain. So it's essentially just a higher gain version of a tube screamer that sounds a little bit warmer as well. So yeah, had this one also 2019. I ended up keeping it until 2022 or something, I believe. So yeah, this one, I sold it eventually because I still couldn't get a really good tone out of it. Like, it does the tube screamer thing well, obviously, but it's not very versatile because of that. I want, like, if I have a tube screamer, I want to have some other tones in it as well because it takes up space on my pedal board, and yeah, I want something more versatile basically for an overdrive. So this one, because it just does a tube screamer and just it's a warmer, higher gain version of a tube screamer. So yeah, it kind of didn't really compete with stuff like the Timmy or even the Tumnus or the Wampler Euphoria, because those were all more versatile overdrives for me. And this one just didn't, yeah, it still didn't sound quite as good. It still sounded maybe a little bit muddy to me. Kind of had the same issue as the TB09. It's still a little bit like of muddiness for some reason. I don't know. Well, like for this Maxon 9 series, for the tube series, I don't know. Try the TB09, TOD9, both have this kind of muddiness to it. So anyways, I didn't like the tone quite as much as I would have hoped, especially for a pedal as expensive as this one. So ended up selling it later. Okay, so the next overdrive I got was actually the Wampler Tumnus, which is a Klon Centaur. Basically, it's a copy of the Klon Centaur, which is a very popular type of overdrive on the market. And the Wampler Tumnus is a really nice overdrive. I actually have not been able to get it off my pedal board because it's a really unique overdrive. Like, yes, Klon Centaurs, I understand, you know, they got this mythical reputation, and the Tumnus is actually one of the best Klon clones, I guess, on the market. And yeah, it's simple to use. It's only got three knobs: gain, you know, volume, and treble here, and it's got the same buffer that the original had. And it's a mini pedal too. It doesn't take up too much space on the pedal board. What's unique about the Klon Centaur type circuit is that it has some cleans blended in as well. So it's not like really that dirty. I mean, you can definitely get some grit on it, but it's actually really good as a boost as well because it actually blends in some clean as well. So I think that's why a lot of people use the Klon circuit as kind of a boost, because it adds in a lot of cleans. So basically, when I kick on the Tumnus, it just boosts my tone, adds a little bit of grit, but still kind of keeps the clean with it. It adds a little bit of mid-range as well, but for the most part, it keeps my tone clean. So it's a really unique overdrive to have. I think everyone should have a Klon on their pedal board at least, because it's a unique overdrive circuit. So yeah, I still have the Tumnus to this day. It's just it's a nice overdrive to have, and yeah, I think it stacks pretty well with almost anything. So really good stacking overdrive as well. So it can get higher gain if you push it up like this, and it uses the diodes. But overall, it's a pretty unique overdrive, I think. So, anyways, I still have it in my pedal board. Really good for stacking. So the next overdrive that I just kind of tried out for a little bit is the new Tube Screamer by Ibanez. So this is a two-power tube screamer, essentially similar to the TOD9, which I'm comparing against, except the TOD9 uses a sub-miniature tube, a Raytheon, I believe. And the Ibanez uses a new tube by Korg. And the new tube is a different kind of tube from your traditional vacuum tube. The new tube, yeah, it's a different kind of technology. It's not the same as a vacuum tube, but behaves similarly to a vacuum tube, I think. So it's pretty interesting comparing this Korg new tube with the Raytheon sub-miniature. Yeah, I think what I got out of this comparison is that the new tube is a bit higher gain, and has the same like tube screamer controls, but you can actually turn up the gain even more. You can actually blend some of the cleans in as well. Overall, the new tube screamer is a pretty high gain type of pedal with that signature tube screamer type of tone. But I didn't like this little square switch here. It's not very reliable. This is the TS808 type switch, which is not a reliable switch. And yeah, it's just, again, not very versatile. I want to have a more versatile pedal. Neither of these are actually versatile. So that's why I ended up getting with the TOD9 and the new Tube Screamer, because neither of them are really versatile pedals. They're cool pedals to have. I mean, they're both two-powered Tube Screamers, but neither of them are really for me. I think they're not versatile enough for me. So ended up getting rid of this one. This one I had for less than 6 months probably. I had it from 2020 to 2021, less than 6 months. But yeah, ended up trying this one out as well. Didn't really end up liking it, unfortunately. Okay, so the next distortion pedal I have is a fuzz, and that's the BBE window pane. It's a silicon fuzz. and it's a very good silicon fuzz because they bias it really nicely from the factory so that it sounds not as harsh as other silicon fuzzes do. It actually sounds closer to a germanium fuzz, but it doesn't have the temperature issues that germanium fuzzes do. So yeah. And then window pane is a pretty nice fuzz. Pretty simple to use, volume and fuzz. Yeah, this is the one I usually go to when I want to like get a fuzz type of sound, which usually is used for like for me it's pretty much just Hendrix actually. I don't use fuzz all that much, and that's why this pedal actually I didn't keep it for that long. I had it from my 2020 to 2022 because this pedal. Yeah, it's not that it's a bad fuzz or anything. It's a good fuzz, actually. It's a good sound. And I would keep it if I used fuzz more. I just don't use fuzz enough. Like, I don't have enough songs where I would use fuzz. It's just like, if I'm playing some Hendrix, then I might use some fuzz. But I don't really play Hendrix as much as before. When I was in high school and university, I played a ton of Hendrix. But nowadays, I don't really play too much Jimi Hendrix. I mean, yeah, I'm playing a whole bunch of other songs too, and not many of them use fuzz. So that's why I ended up not keeping it for that long, unfortunately. Just didn't have much use for fuzz. And fuzz is not a versatile pedal. Like, a fuzz pedal is not versatile at all. It only does one thing. And yeah, that's pretty much, if you get a fuzz pedal, you know what it's doing, and it only does one thing. So fuzz pedals are not versatile. And yeah, I don't really use it as much as I wanted to. So yeah, that's why I didn't end up keeping it for that long. Okay, so the Photon OCD is another really popular overdrive pedal. This is a full range overdrive, which means it goes anywhere from like light gain all the way up to like full on near fuzz level territory. So yeah, Photon OCD, I've had, this one I only kept for a little bit because I ended up not liking it as much either. I just felt like, again, it's a versatile overdrive in terms of if you want to have a wide range of gain tones. But for me, I think when I have the Euphoria and the Tumnus and actually the Timmy here as well, these are all more versatile for me, for what I play. I don't really play too much high gain stuff. If I want more high gain stuff, the OCD has more high gain than these other overdrives, but I don't really play too much high gain stuff. So that's why I didn't end up keeping the OCD. I think the OCD is nice for high gain type of sounds. But yeah, for my type of style, I think it wasn't for me. So anyways, only kept the OCD for like less than 6 months, I think. Alright, let's go with the MXR Timmy because I have it here as well. The MXR Timmy is basically a more large-scale production of Paul Cochran's Timmy pedal, which is a boutique pedal, and MXR basically collaborated with him to make it more widely available, and you have this mini type pedal form factor as well. So yeah, essentially they took the Paul Cochran's Timmy pedal and kind of made it more compact, and it's pretty much the same pedal. I really like this pedal actually. I still have it on my board. I think the Timmy is a really great pedal for stacking because it's so transparent, and I really do mean in the true sense of transparent, because for the Tumnus, for example, the Klon type pedal, Klons are not really that transparent. They are great for stacking, but they're not actually very transparent. But the MXR Timmy really is a transparent pedal. It's great for stacking. Compared to the Euphoria, it's interesting, and Euphoria has more gain. The Euphoria is also transparent, but it has more gain on tap. The Timmy does not have as much gain on tap, but it's really good as a light overdrive or even a boost. And because it's so versatile and it plays well with pretty much any other pedal for stacking, that's why I still have it on my board. So yeah, got the Timmy in 2022 and I'm still using it now because it's a very, very versatile overdrive pedal. Can stack pretty much anything. So it's great as a boost and light overdrive, I think. Alright, so the next overdrive, actually this is an overdrive and a boost and a preamp type pedal. But this is a Tube Starter Lightkeeper. It's a tube-powered overdrive boost preamp pedal that is basically it's trying to simulate the clean section of a Dumble Overdrive Special. and that's actually it's a pretty good pedal. I still have it to this day. So tell you guys why. So first of all, this is kind of an always on pedal for me. I just feel like it enhances my tone, so I always have it on pretty much. And I put it in my effects loop, so pretty much it is trying to be like the Dumble Overdrive Special clean channel in my amp. And then it's very versatile too, because you got a 3-band EQ, volume and gain of course, but you also have a foot switchable boost and a mid boost as well. So yeah, you can either have a clean boost or a mid boost, and you can switch it on at any time, and it's just a very versatile pedal for low gain and for boosting. And generally I just leave it on anyways as a tone enhancer. So yeah, it's just a really nice pedal to have. It's not exactly for high gain, because it's really just trying to duplicate the clean channel of the Dumble Overdrive Special. But I feel like this is a really good pedal to have on my board, just as kind of a really versatile, always-on pedal. So that's why I took off the Catalan-bred Epoch boost and those other preamp pedals, because this just does more. This as a preamp pedal and a boost pedal, it's very versatile, just does more. I always have it on my board. So yeah, Tube Starter Lightkeeper, still have it. In my effects loop, it's pretty much an always-on pedal for me. I believe Tube Starter is making like a smaller version of this pedal now, which would be nice to have, because this pedal is quite big. It would be nice if they made a smaller version at the time I bought this, but yeah, 2022 I've had it. Guess I'll keep the bigger version since that's what I have. But yeah, very versatile pedal, great for light gain, great for stacking. Great for an always-on pedal actually. So yeah, just put it in your effects loop and you pretty much have the Dumble Overdrive Special clean channel in your rig. So pretty nice. By the way, it's super transparent, so you don't have to worry about discoloring your tone too much, unless you turn up the EQ and stuff. It's a very transparent type pedal too. So anyways, I always have it on. Okay, so also in 2022, I got the G-Town Holy Grail Overdrive. So this is a builder from Russia, and this pedal was very expensive. This was like this is the most expensive pedal I ever bought, $300. The reason why it's so expensive is not because it originally was expensive. I think it originally sold for like $150, but because the builder's in Russia and there was a Russia boycott because they invaded Ukraine, it was pretty much impossible to get new versions of this pedal, so you basically just had to get it from Reverb. All the prices on Reverb skyrocketed. But I still got this anyways, and I think it's still worth it. Like, it's just a great pedal. Like, even at the expensive price of $300, this competes against any other of these Dumble Overdrive type pedals, and it still is better, I think. The great thing about the G-Town Holy Grail is yes, it just tries to do that Dumble Overdrive type of sound. Unlike the Lightkeeper, it's not about the clean type of sound. This is really about the overdriven sound. So when I stack the Lightkeeper and the Holy Grail, essentially it is the complete tone of the Dumble Overdrive Special, except it's more versatile. I mean, this one you can choose between I mean, you have 4 knobs, but you can choose between a high cut and a... So essentially the high cut is similar to that rock jazz switch that you have on Overdrive Specials. And then you have a round open sharp setting as well, which is kind of like the one on the Euphoria. So I was comparing this with the Euphoria. Honestly, the Wampler Euphoria is still more versatile. The Wampler Euphoria is just an incredibly versatile pedal, one of the most versatile overdrive pedals. So it's not actually quite as versatile as the Wampler Euphoria, but I would say for that Dumble type sound, the Holy Grail does it better. The Wampler Euphoria tries to kind of approximate the Dumble type sound in the smooth setting, but the Holy Grail, it really does the Dumble thing really well. And that Dumble thing I'm talking about is the smooth, creamy, rich overdrive. The harmonically rich overdrive is what I'm talking about. I know Dumble sound is very vague, but that's what I'm talking about. Harmonically rich, creamy, smooth overdrive. The Euphoria tries to approximate that with the smooth setting, but yeah, the Holy Grail, I think this is the best Dumble in the box. Like, yeah, this does it really, really well. So when I was comparing the two, you know, I wanted to choose just one because I can't have both on my pedal board. Yeah, the Euphoria, even though it's more versatile, the Holy Grail is the one I kept because it just does the Dumble thing so well, and that's what I wanted. And if I wanted to have a tube screamer type sound, I can just turn up the mids and then it becomes almost like a tube screamer. So like a more harmonically rich tube screamer, I guess. So it does that too. So overall, yeah, I'm pretty satisfied with the Holy Grail. Still on my pedal board to this day. because it's pretty much one of my heaviest overdrives in terms of coloring my tone. So this is not a transparent overdrive, especially if I turn up the mids, but if I want to have that colored overdrive sound, to have that rich, harmonically driven overdrive, creamy overdrive tone, then I turn this on. Okay, so the next overdrive I got was one I got last year, 2023, the Black Box Overdrive 2 by Snaus. This is essentially a take on the Marshall Bluesbreaker pedal, which is trying to duplicate the sound of a Marshall Bluesbreaker amp. That's a pedal that Marshall released back in the early 90s. Got really popular because of John Mayer, mainly. But yeah. Black Box Overdrive 2 is essentially an enhanced Bluesbreaker type pedal, and it does it really well. Actually, what I like about this pedal is actually you can change the dip switches on the back to make it act like a boost as well, but it's reasonably transparent. It's actually not the most transparent pedal, adds a little bit of low end, but it's reasonably transparent, I guess, compared to a Tube Screamer or something. And yeah, like, I really like how it adds a lot of grit to my tone. So if I really wanted to add more grit to my tone, then I turn on the Black Box Overdrive 2. It adds that kind of signature Marshall girth. And I guess in that way, it's a little bit similar to that Ramble FX Marvel drive I talked about earlier. But yeah, this one does a little bit more. It's a little bit more transparent than that. So overall, if I want to have kind of like a transparent but gritty type of pedal for stacking with my other overdrives, then I turn on the Overdrive 2. So it adds that low end. It adds a bit of low end, it adds some grit, and it's still reasonably stackable. So yeah, I like the Black Box Overdrive 2. I still have it. Yeah, so pretty nice overdrive, I think, for adding that extra grit to my tone. So the other pedal I have in this video that I didn't keep, but it was comparing to, is the MXR Duke of Tone. And the MXR Duke of Tone I didn't keep for that long, yeah, less than 6 months probably. I was doing it in the shootout because I wanted to really see what it was about, because the MXR Duke of Tone is based on the famed analog man Prince of Tone. And so basically, yeah, let's take a look. Yeah, so the MXR Duke of Tone is based on the analog man Prince of Tone, which is a famous pedal that a lot of people rave about. I personally don't find the Duke of Tone, or the Prince of Tone, I guess, that good, because it has I mean, sure, I get it has some versatility here. You have 3 switches, one for boost, one for overdrive, and one for distortion. None of them really sound that great to me, honestly. Like, I know a lot of people swear by the King of Tone and the Prince of Tone, but for me, it didn't impress me as much. And I was doing a comparison between the Black Box and the Duke of Tone, because they were both kind of Bluesbreaker-derived pedals, but I much prefer the Black Box sound, even though the Black Box doesn't have these different settings for, you know, boost and overdrive. But it doesn't really need to, because I didn't really need that either. I mean, if I have the MXR Timmy, that's essentially my boost pedal, so I don't really need to have that. But so the MXR Duke of Tone is, I found, not really necessary for me. Yes, on the outside, if it's your only overdrive pedal, then it could be versatile, I guess, but to me, it didn't sound as good as Euphoria, it doesn't sound as good as the Black Box Overdrive 2, it doesn't sound as good as the Timmy, actually. So, yeah, I think for stacking, it's good for stacking, but I have other pedals that are better for stacking. I have other pedals that do things better, right? So for Timmy, I can use for the boost. I can use a Black Box to kind of be a better version of the MXR Duke of Tone distortion overdrive settings. So there's no reason for me to keep the MXR Duke of Tone. So that's why I didn't keep it for very long. I should just prefer the Overdrive 2 and the Timmy better. Also, I bought the Ibanez Termura mod Tube Screamer from Godlike. So this is a modified Tube Screamer. It's a modified TS9 with the mods that Susumu Termura added in, who is the original creator of the Tube Screamer circuit. And I paid like $300 for this. It was a lot of money. I just want to see what this is about. This is kind of like a limited edition pedal, I believe. And you know, they were really hyping up this pedal. They're saying like, yeah, Termura-san, he put his mods in. This is the best version of the Tube Screamer ever. It's got a special op chip inside of it, op amp chip, IC chip or whatever. So yeah, they really hyped it up, saying that it was you know, very special. Termura made all these modifications, sounds much better and stuff. So yeah, I ended up trying this out, and what my thinking was on this pedal is it is a very good Tube Screamer type sound. it's a bit more open. It's a bit more open. The mid-range is not as pushed up as other tube screamers. A little bit more dynamic sounding, but to me, it's not like enough of a difference between a typical tube screamer to justify the price. And plus, I think the main issue is that it's not as versatile. So, again, I bought this just kind of out of curiosity, but it really isn't as versatile as my other overdrive pedals, and I really want something to be versatile if it's going to be on my board. So yeah, it ends up not being that versatile, and it was expensive. So yeah, I didn't keep this one for very long. I ended up just returning it. But yeah, that's the thing. Like, yes, it sounds pretty good for a tube screamer, but it's still not very versatile because it's, at the end of the day, it's still a tube screamer. So it doesn't matter what kind of special chips Temura put inside of this thing, it's still just a tube screamer. So, and it's plus it's really expensive. So anyways, I ended up not really keeping it for that long. But yeah, I did try it out. The Temura Mod TS9TM by Godlike was a modified. Godlike is the U.S. distributor for Maxon. And I guess they retained the services of Susumu Temura after they I guess whatever deal with Maxon ended up being cut. But yeah, it's overpriced. Yeah, for what it is, I think. It's a good tube screamer, don't get me wrong. Good sounding tube screamer, but it's still overpriced. Okay, so another overdrive pedal I bought actually this year was a Fairfield Circuitry Barbershop, which is a unique circuit. The Fairfield Barbershop, it has this unique sag dial on this thing, which kind of simulates the effect of, or maybe it just decreases the voltage to the pedal. So it's just, yeah, it's a pretty unique effect. It kind of starves the pedal of voltage, and it has a really unique sound to it. And then you have a switch right here, which has, it turns up, it's kind of like a high cut, I think. And I don't like to cut the highs because I like to have clarity, and anytime you cut the highs, for me it just feels more muddy. So I don't like a muddy type of sound, so I almost never switch off the I almost never switch high cut on. So I don't know really why do pedals have a high cut? It just sounds more muddy, like you're putting a blanket over your amp. So I don't know, but anyways, the reason why I didn't keep this pedal is because, like, everyone says this is a transparent type of pedal, which it is. It's a transparent pedal, but I just didn't find the tones as usable for me. Sure, it's a unique circuit, but I don't like this high cut type of switch. It doesn't do anything for me. I never use the high cut switch because I don't like to my sound to be muddy. And the sag dial is novel, but I don't really like the sound of the sag. So not really usable for me. I much prefer the Timmy in the black box over the Fairfield Barbershop. So yeah. On top of that, it's a fairly expensive pedal. So yeah, I didn't end up keeping the Fairfield Barbershop for very long. Just like, you know, a few months. That was pretty much it. Hey, here's two other overdrive pedals I got this year. The Keeley El Rey Dorado, which is essentially a Marshall Plexi in a box. It's a JTM45 in a box. And yeah, this is pretty similar to the Ramble FX Marble Drive I had before. It's a bit simpler to use. Doesn't have as quite a cool looking as the plexiglass on the Ramble effects, but yeah, this is I mean, it's not expensive. It's a fairly easy pedal to find, pretty widely available. Sounds pretty good. I mean, it's a Marshall Plexi in a box, so if you're imagining a Marshall in a box, then the Keeley El Rey Dorado is pretty good for that. Just has a pretty simple one switch here for low and high, and then you have 3 knobs, and that's pretty much it. Pretty simple to operate. I think the issue with this pedal I had is just, again, I don't use this Marshall tone enough. The most Marshall I get is probably the Snouse Black Box when I want to use that Bluesbreaker type of low end if I want to add that into my sound. But I don't really use the Plexi type tone that much, and yeah, it's not versatile. That's the thing. It only does one thing, which is to try to duplicate the Marshall Plexi sound, and that's all it does. So yeah, I ended up not using this one that much, so I didn't really keep it for that long. The other one has the Boss Angry Driver, which is a collaboration Boss did with JHS pedals. So this one is a very versatile pedal. So this one, because it's combining 2 circuits, it's combining the Blues Driver from Boss and the Angry Charlie from JHS, which is a Marshall JCM 900 in a box, I think. It's combining them together. And what you get is a very versatile 4-range pedal. So essentially you can think of this as kind of like a full tone OCD, but pushed up to the next level because it's even more versatile. Since you can use these different settings on it, you can either have you can have the Angry Charlie go into the blues driver, and the blues driver go into the Angry Charlie. You can have them be in parallel. It's a very versatile pedal. So with this one pedal, you can get a full range of distortion and overdrive sounds. So the Angry Driver, I think, is definitely one of the most versatile overdrive distortion pedals out there. It can even go into fuzz territory if you want. So yeah, because there's literally 2 circuits inside of this thing, and you can choose to activate, you know, each one separately or combined, layered on top of each other. Like, it's really versatile. So I still have this pedal. I don't use it all that much because it's like I have a whole bunch of overdrive pedals on my pedal board, but I do use this when I want to take just one pedal out and I want this one pedal to be able to do everything. So yeah, for a single pedal, this thing is really versatile. Like, generally I don't use it because because I have a full range of, you know, pedals on my pedal board. But if I were just to go on a gig and I don't have enough space to take my full pedal board, I just have space for a few pedals, then I'm going to take this one because this one's my single most versatile overdrive pedal. It can do everything from light gain, from the blues driver light gain, all the way to the heavy crunch of the Angry Charlie. So yeah, just a really nice versatile overdrive pedal, the Boss Angry Driver. Okay, so lastly you have the Benson Germanium preamp, which I didn't end up keeping for very long. So this is a preamp slash overdrive pedal, and it is versatile. Like, you can definitely like get a lot of sounds out of it. So Benson, actually, this is technically they're kind of an amp maker, but they also make pedals as well. But yeah, like, this preamp does a lot of things well. This is a special edition of the preamp where they put in germanium transistors and stuff to change the tone a little bit. Overall, what I feel about this one is it's very versatile for what it is, but it's not going to replace any pedal on my pedal board, because honestly I don't think it does anything better than the combination of pedals I have on my pedal board. Like, I have a Tube Starter Light Keeper, the Black Box, I have the G-Town, Holy Grail, the Timmy, and the Tumnus. Like, out of that combination of pedals, I don't think this one can do better than that. And if I were to use it as a standalone pedal, I think it's still not quite as versatile as my Boss Angry Driver. So it's still not quite as versatile as my Boss Angry Driver, so I think I'd still rather use my Angry Driver over this. Because this thing, like, it can get into maybe near fuzz territory if you turn it up enough, but still doesn't have the full range of different modes that you can get with the Angry Driver. Because like I said, the Angry Driver is a combination of the blues driver with, with the Angry Charlie. Whereas the Benson Germanium preamp, it's just got 4 knobs, and while it is versatile in the amount of tones that it can get, it's still not going to beat the Angry Charlie in terms of versatility. And it's not really going to replace any of the pedals on my pedal board in terms of stacking. So yeah, like, it's a little bit too much for stacking, I think, since it's really meant to be used alone. But then, if you're using it alone, then the Angry Driver is still more versatile for me. So anyways, I didn't end up keeping this one for that long, just a few months, that's it. So, yep, Benson Germanium preamp. And that's pretty much it. I think that's pretty much my overdrive history, this being pretty much the last overdrive that I bought recently. Yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. That's kind of a long, detailed overview of all the different pedals that I've used in my hobbyist guitar career. Yeah, let me know what you guys think of all my pedals in the comment section below. But so far, as of 2024, this is my pedal history. Yeah, I've gone through a lot of different pedals, especially overdrive pedals. Let me know what you guys think. Currently I have 12 pedals still on my pedal board. I still have the BBE Benoit, which I've had since 2010. I had the Boss Angry Driver since earlier this year. The Boss RC5, which I've had since 2020. Fender Marine Layer Reverb is my main reverb. I've had that since 2022. The Tube Starter Light Keeper, that's my light gain overdrive pedal slash tone enhancer. I've had that since 2022. The Hermida APH3 delay I've had since this year. Xotic SP compressor, which I've had since 2015. The Wampler Tumnus, which I've had since 2019. The MXR Timmy, which I've had since 2022, the Holy Grail Overdrive, which I've had since 2022, Black Box Overdrive, which I had since last year, and the Boss Chromatic Tuner, which I've had since 2015 or 2016, I believe. So, yep, 12 pedals on my pedal board. That's pretty much it. I've had, yeah, I think I'm going to stick with this for a while now. You can also, you know, look at my pedal board overview videos, but this is kind of just like telling you guys my entire pedal board overview for each of my years, essentially, just going through all my different pedals. But hope you guys enjoy this little history rundown of all the different guitar pedals I've used before. If you guys have, you know, listened to all this, thanks for listening and thanks for watching. I know I tend to rant and ramble when I go through all this, but yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, let me know what kind of video you guys want to see next from this kind of stuff. And yeah, as always, thanks for watching.